Greetings, students, and welcome to another fun-filled day here at
Horror
in the Halls.
What's up, kids, and welcome to Horror in the Halls, Jenny Deadfuls Edition.
Woo!
I'm Jenny, aka Mrs. Hill.
And I'm Bob, aka Mr. Holland.
And as all teachers know, May can suck with all the state testing, the finals, and apathy on the students' part. So in honor of all that, the lesson plan for May is Hell Month. We have such sights to show you. You need to keep that in. I'm sorry. I'm having a hard time today.
Apparently.
We have such sights to show you as we delve into Clive Barker's novella, The Hellbound Heart, full of lust, a creepy box, spells, Cenobites, and no redeeming characters. Oh my.
Tis true.
So, Bob, you want to say anything before I go into all the details?
We have thigh? Yes.
You should really keep that in.
I'm going to.
That's how I feel. This whole month is just sucks so bad.
Yeah. It's a good way to wrap it up. No,
right? Oh, shoot.
I love this story. I love Hellraiser. It's one of my favorite horror franchises. So I'm really a big fan. The book is a lot different than the movie. If you've not read it, it's very short, so it's almost impossible for us not to give away spoilers. Really? It's like a 3-hour audiobook, so it's really short. And it's fairly close to the movie. I mean, Frank is still like a horrid piece of garbage. The Cenobites are there, but they're more focused on the female one, not so much Pinhead. That was just for the movies. And yeah, and of course, Le Marchand's box. Let's get into the deets, bro. Then we can talk all about it.
Alrighty. Well, as you know, the author is Clive Barker. However, he also narrates the audiobook or a version of the audiobook. He does the abridged version.
It's awesome.
And that's the version I wanted to listen to, and I listened to it this time. It was, like I said, it was really easy to sit and listen to this. Like, it was less, like you said, less than 3 hours. He does a great job at voices of each character. So I recommend it if you don't want to sit and read the novella, which the novella, I'm sure, like just sitting and reading it wouldn't take you long either way. The font's real big in it. It's not that, it's like 150-ish pages. He has a very extensive writing career because he's written just about everything. He's written nonfiction, fiction, poetry, anthologies, short stories, which also novellas, like they go kind of hand in hand sometimes, depending on how long they are. Poetry, plays, graphic novels, comics. He does art. His art's pretty cool.
Very dark.
Yes, very dark. Very much Hellraiser-ish.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. There's lots of like chains and things. It's just, it's really cool though. It's very gothic. Let's see. His website it's got literally everything listed on there. So like that's where I kind of went. I also went to his IMDb because he's done a lot with like just movies in general, obviously. He directed Hellraiser and Nightbreed, but he wrote Candyman, which we talked about in our Candyman episode.
Mm-hmm.
Which I need to read at some point because I just want to read his version of the story.
It's much different. It takes place in Britain, of course. White guy.
Yeah,
it's a lot different, but he's very British. So I believe it's in the Books of Blood. So you read those; they're in there.
I guess the reason I want to read it is because I actually thought that this book was this novella was well written. Can't say I loved it, but I'll explain why later. But anyways, it was really well written. It's got a 92% of Google users like the novella, which is a lot. A 4.1 out of 5 on Goodreads and a 4.4 on Thrift Books. So I feel like that's pretty accurate for what it is. So, but yeah, he's a pretty interesting fellow.
Yeah, I think he's awesome. I've met him one time when the director's cut of Nightbreed was making all the horror convention circuits. I tried to go to watch the screening of it at Horror Hound, and we couldn't get there in time. But I did take the opportunity to meet him, and he was really cool, really interesting. You know, he's very from the stuff reading his work and seeing his films. He's exactly what you would picture him to be. Like he just is that person. So it was cool. Yeah, big fan. Like I said, I've always loved Hellraiser.
It's been a long time since I've seen the first Hellraiser, and I think I blocked it out a little bit based on like who Frank is. So
Yeah, Frank's a piece, man.
yeah, he's well. So the main characters of the story that are important to note are Rory, Julia, Frank, Kirsty, and the Cenobites. I have to add them in there, obviously, because
Yeah,
you know they're a huge part of the story. It's just that they're not in it much, but they don't have to be. And the
no,
parts that they are in are pretty dark. So actually, I like the way he narrated the voices of the Cenobites. I thought that was really cool. It's exactly how I imagine. Like when you think about the movies, they kind of talk in that sing-songy,
yeah,
kind of weird voice. I don't know. It just he did a good job. That's all I can say. So all the writing was really well done. There's a lot of really crude themes.
a lot. Yeah,
And so this is where I had the most issue, okay? Because coming from my past, suffering from sexual abuse is like part of my life and I've learned to accept that. But I think Frank bothers me, and that's why I didn't like this the story. It was hard for me to swallow, basically. Like it was hard for me to like read it and like enjoy it. I read it and it was really well done.
yeah,
But coming from trauma, this is a really hard book or novella to read. So I'm saying all this with caution. So if you are one of those people, I would not necessarily read it unless you were ready to read it. Is one of those kind of things because the themes
hmm
are so harsh and they're very apparent.
yes.
So that's just my little disclaimer. But again, I thought it was a really good novella. Like he did a great job.
Yeah. I like that Frank gets punished multiple times.
Yes. That part did bring me joy,
And, reading this
especially at the
too,
end.
if you think back to our Hellraiser 2 episode, Frank's version of hell, which for him would be horrid, it just makes it seem all that more deserving when
Yes.
you get to know, like, because you get a little bit an insight into how Frank is in the movie, but not as much as you get into this because you get a lot more from
Yeah.
his first person kind of
Yeah.
approach. And I like that a lot. I think it kind of
Yeah.
makes it make sense.
And what I'd liked and didn't like same time is that he had that inner monologue when he was messing around with Julia, how he was just kind of he was discarding her because
Yeah.
she was kind of used up at that point and he needed to move on and do and explore other things. And I was like, you are a piece of garbage. Literal garbage.
Just not even talking about the fact that that's his brother. Like you
I
came
know, right?
home for your brother's wedding, ruined his wife, and then dipped before the wedding even happened.
I know. They were both like the worst humans ever.
They are. They are.
But I think the novella really shows you how dark of people they were.
Yeah.
So, anyway, I don't remember the movie as well, so I can't compare the two. If I had time, I would have watched it, but I
Yeah.
didn't. Just so that I could make some comparisons.
Well, the movie's the same but different. Like I know it enough that I can. So
Yeah.
a big change are the ages. So in the book, Rory and Julia are very young. They're mid-20s. Frank is like late 20s, 29ish.
Okay.
And Kirsty is a coworker of Rory's who's kind of infatuated with him in the novella. Now in the movie, Rory became Larry, and Larry is Kirsty's dad. So they're much
Yeah.
older. Julia is her evil stepmom, and then Frank is portrayed as even older. Very much the same character though. He's still a horrid piece of crap. He's still essentially defiles Julia on their wedding day. Like all that stuff is still there. So Frank's
Yeah.
character is almost exactly the same. Like Frank Cotton is
Okay.
just deserving of everything terrible. Rory becomes Larry. Larry's the dad. Christy's a daughter. She's younger. She has a boyfriend character gets thrown in. It's either Steve or Sean. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah.
And the Cenobites are a lot more in the forefront of the film,
Yeah, they
like how
are.
they look and how
I do
they
remember that
interact.
part. I would love to ask him this question or see if it's posted online somewhere. But I wonder if they made that switch for Kirsty being the daughter to make you feel more sympathy toward her, because I did not feel sorry for her in the novella, whereas in the movie, I felt terrible for her because she was really kind of stalkerish and weird with Rory in the
Mm-hmm.
novella, and it made me not like any of them, including her, because she was kind of like you said, she's like this flirtatious friend of Rory's, and he's married, and she's kind of like she dips in whenever she just wants to, and then he asks her for favors, and she like stalks around outside the house, and it's just so weird. I'm like, I just don't like her character. I didn't like any of the characters except for
No,
the
they're not.
Cenobites, really.
They're not great,
So,
really.
no.
I think in the book, Rory knows that she likes him. She's like his work wife. You know what I mean? Like that whole like quote unquote work wife, that person he
That's
can go
weird.
to and talk to and kind of confide in. And she just has that. She really likes him, and then he chose the pretty girl. And
Yeah.
so I agree. I think it's better. I think the movie is better, and it's interesting. I wonder. I would like to ask him as well, solely because he's the one that wrote both of them. So it's like,
Yeah.
why did you change your own source material? Was it to keep them separate? Was it because, like you said, you made that character more likable for the film? And I've watched interviews where he has stated that making changes because what you can do in a book and what you can portray on screen are so different. Because with print media, a lot of that of how you see the characters, how you view them, are all based on our own experiences and all based on our own imaginations. But in the film, they're just there. You know what I mean? So I'm sure that was probably
Mhm.
why because like you said, you don't really like her. She gets
No.
away and probably really shouldn't. She's not really an innocent for real.
No, she's
She's just
not.
a kind of like a dirt to dirt, like a bumbling turd a little bit. Like whatever you see, you know what I mean? Like so making her the daughter, just trying to find her dad, I think makes it a little bit better.
Yeah, you feel sorry for her. There's empathy in for her. That's like in
Yeah.
the novella, there's not. It's like you're just some stalkerish like coworker friend
Who wants
infringing on
Rory?
someone
Yeah.
else's marriage. It's weird. I know that Julia is is a terrible person too, but that doesn't make her any better.
No, not at
I
all.
just didn't like I hated all the characters and I think that that was well done because I hated them so much. I was like, Kirsty sucks too. But Rory, yeah, and I didn't really feel sorry for Rory either because it seemed like he kind of drank himself into a stupor most nights. So I'm like, I just don't know, man. I he did a really good job though, because I felt like I was in the house with all the characters the whole time. Because the way he explained like the weird room, I can't remember what he kept saying the same line over and over again, and I can't think of
It
what
was
it
the damp room.
the damp room. I was like,
Yeah.
ew, that just sounds
I know,
gross.
right? Like the air is just bleh.
It's
Yeah.
the damp room. I'm like, "Eh." But yeah, I was like, I can just imagine just a dank space, like just moldy
Yeah,
and
like it
like
smelled mildewy.
yeah, smelled that way, and then almost like a
Mm-hmm.
little bit of iron in the air because of the blood and like it's just ugh. And every time I thought when he did the damp room, I kept thinking it's just because this guy has juicy body in there. It's so gross because he's like all bloody and gross.
Uh-huh.
Like, but I really thought that it put me right there, and I just felt gross the whole time I was listening. I was like, he's just gross. Like, but it's like almost fitting that Frank was kind of stuck in that nasty little room with his nasty little self. He didn't
Yeah.
look attractive anymore, and
I also
obviously 'cause there
liked,
was no skin.
I know, I think my favorite part was when they kind of described how the Cenobites tortured them when they were not torturing them, how they made them look in on where they opened the box, which I think was pretty
Okay.
interesting. Like that's an addition that is not in the films. That's, I think it's kind of cool. Like you're forever just looking into this empty room, right? And your brother's there,
Mhm.
never uses it, and I thought it was just kind of a cool take on it.
Yeah, and the bells, like, I always, because in the movie or in the movies, all I think of is, like, that high, like, whistling, like the air, like, you remember when we talked about that when we watched
Yeah,
Hellraiser 2, and we were talking about, like, how, like, the air you could just hear the air, like, through the space, and then
yeah.
when the box was finally opened, but this one was like a beckoning of bells, and I thought that was, like, I could almost like a creepy music box is what
Yeah.
I was thinking of.
Well, it kind of is because, like, when you talk, remember when at the very
Yeah.
beginning when they talk about Le Marchand, he created those little like bird automaton toys that whistled. So that's what he
Yeah.
did. So the fact that you open it and it has like those little whistles and chimes like a
Mhm.
bird, I thought was a really
Yeah.
cool descriptor because you can almost hear it. And because I know what it looks like I'm so familiar with, in the films they call it the lament configuration, but like I used to own one. I want another one, but because I'm so familiar with it, it's like I can see her doing it, right? Like
Yeah.
trying to open it and fumble with it and moving her fingers around the circles and stuff. And that's just really cool. I think the way it was done and approached was really good. Like I said, I think it's a solid novella, especially to have its influence from so few pages. I think it's like 9 movies now, like a whole franchise, comic books, toy lines, everything, and it definitely has those similar themes, BDSM and sexual abuse and
Yeah.
just weird love and hate and desire and lust and the differences. And I think he does a good job of touching on all that and making everyone who, even like you mentioned, having past trauma, you might take that a certain way, but people without that will still get something from this. You still
Mhm.
know, even without that trauma, this is wrong. Something is off. Something is bad. Like Frank is
Yeah.
terrible.
Frank is, like, messed up.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. He's
sociopath messed up.
exactly. He's a criminal. He's ridiculous. And I really
Yeah.
kind of enjoyed that.
Well, he kinda has to be because he was seeking a different type of pleasure. It was really cool, though, to be inside his head when he finally opens the box and the Cenobites come through, and he was thinking it was gonna be totally different than what it was,
Yeah.
and I was like, "This is so deserving."
Mm-hmm.
And then at that I can't really remember the part with the one Cenobite, like, at the very end, it doesn't tell you much other than the way that they're sitting, like, their legs were spread, almost kind of, like, beckoning him a little bit,
Oh, the one with the female one
and
with the tongues on her thighs and stuff.
yeah, and I was like,
Yeah.
"That's weird."
Yeah.
And then it kinda, like, you kinda knew, like, "Okay, she's about to mess him up."
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, it doesn't tell you anything, and I was like, I thought that was a cool way to end that little section because I was like, it left me kind of filling in the blanks, which I appreciated. Let me fill in the blanks. Like,
Yeah.
you completely destroyed him. We
Oh
all
yeah.
know this.
Yeah. They tore him apart.
Yes, literally. But I was like, just this the visual of that Cenobite kinda in the corner doing, like, just I was like, "Ugh, it's
Yeah.
so gross."
On a big pile of heads of severed heads and
Yeah,
stuff.
and, like, tongues all around, I'm like,
Yeah.
"Ugh." but it's almost like it's so deserving because it was like
Mhm.
he's looking at her like, oh, okay, and then oh no, this is not going to end well for me.
I know, like, this is
Uh,
not what I asked for. It's not what I bargained
no, it's
for.
not.
And it
Mm-mm.
kind of got talks. I think he does a good job of pinpointing the hubris of man. Like, you're going to an otherworldly creatures, assuming they're going to have the same ideas and approaches and views on things as you do, and then
Mm-hmm.
being upset when it's not what you wanted. You know what I mean? It's like,
Right.
what did you think was going to happen, fam? Yeah, it was really good. I liked it. I'm a fan. Again, it's one of my favorite horror series. I think Pinhead's one of the greatest characters of all time, just for the makeup alone and the dialogue. So I'm about it.
Yeah, the dialogue. I mentioned the dialogue in my notes because I thought the dialogue pushed the plot so well and the character development and like just
Mm-hmm.
how wretched they all were for different reasons and like being inside their head a little bit, like explaining like the reason they were doing certain things and like Kirsty's dilemma of like wanting to do what Rory asked her to do, but also, not wanting to tell him because she didn't want to be that person giving him that bad news. And it was like, and then like all the men that Julia was like, bringing home and like I was like, "Oh my gosh." And like her conversations between them both, I was just like, "Man, he did a really good job with differentiating between each character."
Yeah.
Like sometimes it's not within that short of period of text. I feel like sometimes it's lost depending on what writer it is, and that's why I think that a lot of times that's why when you read short stories, you have very few sections of dialogue. Whereas he wrote a lot of dialogue and it was really successful. Dialogue is really hard to write and to
Yes.
write it in a way where who's speaking is really, he's very successful in that. And that's probably why he's a successful playwright too, because that's all it is for the most part is dialogue and like,
Yeah.
stage directions and stuff. But
Yeah. I think that's why it was so easily translated into a film.
because
It,
of the dialogue in
yeah,
it.
it's
Yeah.
mostly what it is. And there's definitely some key differences, like character changes. Of course, the Cenobites are different. They mention a Cenobite with pins in its head with the very androgynous Cenobite, but it's never really mentioned again.
Mhm.
The main Cenobite in this book is the female Cenobite, the only other one that speaks, really. But of course, at the time when it came out, it was on the heels of your Halloweens and your Nightmare on Elm Streets and your Friday
Yeah.
13th, and you had that main character, right? That main kind of super paranormal, preternatural. How do you say that? Preternatural.
I have no idea.
Whatever. You had some kind of supernatural element of a character. So rather than, because I know originally Julia was supposed to be the main bad guy that comes back and continues the story on and has all this issue, but Pinhead, he was needed, and of course he's awesome. And yeah, good stuff. I'm a fan. Characters are different. But the locations are different. It's in America, not London. Their ages are changed. A character's added, but it's cool that the author did that. I'm sure there was some reason for that, more adapting to an American audience, kind of like how we spoke about with Legend.
Yeah.
How it's different in different places. So I really thoroughly enjoyed it.
I I can't say I thoroughly enjoyed it, but I explained why I didn't.
Yeah,
And I don't want to, you know, discourage people from going to read it. I just want to put a disclaimer out that you just need to be careful if you're have the experiences that I've had that it's not an easy read. But if you haven't, it's still an uneasiness, but it's not the same. You know what I'm saying? It's not like you're going to be like, "Oh god, this is terrible." But I was like, I just between Frank and Julia and she's a freaking serial killer. Okay.
yeah,
Luring people in for him, which I thought her death was the best.
yeah, and that doesn't change. So I mean, obviously, it's good. She dies the same way, except for the only difference is I don't want to say in the movie you don't really see the engineer like that. So like how the end of this one it was the engineer because they even
I
mentioned
know, that
there's
was so
five of you.
cool.
He's like the engineer will come if he has to. they don't mention him hardly at all in the movie, and she's like faceless, chained to a bed. Like she's also paid the price for what she's done, and Kirsty gets to go away scot free because she's, just like he says in part 2, it wasn't hands that called us here; it was desire. It's
Yeah.
kind of the same thing. She did it by accident. I did like that
Mhm.
part when she's like, "It happens more than you would think, but oh well." Like when she's in the hospital and the female Cenobite's like,
Yeah.
"Oh yeah, you called me by accident. That's rough." Like,
Yeah, that
you,
sucks for you, but you have to pay the price for
yeah,
opening it up.
you still did it though. So, but yeah, so good stuff. So solid story, like you said. If you experience things that can definitely make you uneasy, so for sure, forewarning. If you've not read it before, if you are not, or you're able to, definitely worth checking out. I think it's a strong novella. And like you
It
said
is.
before, a lot of them don't have heavy dialogue because they're so short and there's always so more story to get to than dialogue. And I think Clive Barker does a really good job of making dialogue the story. And
And
I
he
think,
also explains the setting really well in
yeah.
such a short period of time because that I'm telling you, I knew what that house looked like before it was over,
Oh,
and,
yeah,
like,
for
how it
sure.
was set up and the landings and the staircase and all that stuff, like, I could visualize all of it.
Yeah, the way he describes like the hallways and the rooms and the different tea bins and stuff. Yeah, he does a good job. Far better than some other
Mhm.
people that are considered amazing writers.
Right.
You know,
They write, like, 1,000-page books, like, he accomplished all that
every
in
year he did.
150-ish
Yeah,
pages.
yeah. He did in 5 pages what it might take some other people 500, and I think he definitely check out his other things. Like I say, if you can't do, a lot of it is in this vein, but he has like Cabal, which is what Nightbreed's based on. Also a great story. There's some really good comics based around these characters that kind of are a continuation of the book more so than the movies. They have more movie characters in them, like Pinhead is in the forefront, but they're more written like the book is. So definitely check those out, guys. And yeah, you want to add anything else before we get into your grade, Miss Hill?
Yeah, which one more thing, like, when I was looking at his website, it, like, warned of the stuff that was on it, but it has a children's section, and they said if if you're, have younger kids and you wanna, like, explore my stuff, there is a section specifically for kids, which I thought was really cool. Like, he puts that warning label on his stuff, which I appreciate because not everybody is that thoughtful when they put a website together. So, like, he's got a section specifically dedicated to kids because he has written children's books.
That's cool.
I don't know if they're necessarily like little kid books, but they're like books that are specifically written for younger readers.
Yeah,
I just don't know how young it goes. So anyway, I'm gonna get to the rubric, but I already know what it's gonna score because I've already scored it by myself because it's in my notes.
I know. I saw that.
I know, but I'll let like you have some input too, obviously. But I was like, this is what it is. So, anyways, so character development.
Yeah, obviously, I think we've already kind of hit it on there.
Yeah.
All of them are described,
Mhm.
even the ones you don't get a lot of detail on. You still know what they look like, and I'm not entirely sure if it's because I've seen the movie. But I do think like we talk about the Cenobites the first time we meet him, and his description of them with like the flayed flesh and the hooks, and you get a really good visual of that, and just Frank being like a greasy, oiled up kind of,
Yeah, gross.
and like it's there. So
Bandaged and
yeah,
just bleh.
I think character development is great for sure. 25.
Yeah, and I was because in the note or in my rubric, I have characters are well balanced and show growth or lack thereof, and I feel like that is what they all had a downfall
Yeah,
in this novella. So to me, that's character development because it shows them at the height and then it shows them declining the whole time, and you're like, dang, this is rough. So yeah, it's a 25 for me too.
okay,
So plot development, I thought he did a super good job with the plot
he
development.
did. Yeah, I mean, the themes from the start. They're running
Mhm.
throughout. You see a lot of, like you said, some ups and downs. You see downfalls of characters. You see characters kind of rise up and then only to fall back down.
and it
The
was timed well. Like
yeah,
he paced this book or the no, I keep saying book, but this novella so well.
yeah,
I didn't feel like it was slow in any section or too fast. It was like even the Cenobites section was like it was timed just right.
yeah, yeah. And it's one of those things
So
where I was engrossed with it, and I was done before I realized it was over. I was like, "Oh crap,
yeah.
that's it." Oh man, like because I was like, "Oh, what happens next?" Man, I gotta watch Hellraiser 2 for that. But yeah, no, 100%. I agree. 25 for sure. It's the themes are solid. They're always there. The pacing does not. I don't think it slows down ever. Even when he's
It's
purposely
just
being
it keeps going.
slow, there's like that suspense there. Like, oh, what's gonna happen? Like, is Kirsty gonna find out? Oh my gosh, she can get killed. Why is Frank staring at her from a window? And you're just like, oh man, what's happening? What's happening? And then the end build on it. Where you're like, oh my god, just kill Frank. And all of a sudden, he's like, I'm Frank. Dunzos. Like you knew it.
I was like, she's like, please just say it's you. Oh my gosh, I'm trying
No,
not to get killed here.
he's gonna murder me. Just say your name. But
I
yeah,
know, right?
it was really good.
Shut up and say your name.
I did like the engineer part at the end where he like bumps into her and like
Oh
leaves
my
the
gosh,
box on her.
yes. I like how he says it too. He's like, I am the engineer. Like he's
Yeah,
like, because it's like sing songy,
yeah.
It's like, and it's very like ominous. I'm like, man, it's so good. And I was like, ooh, I hate when he says engineer because I'm like, all I can think of is you disassembling someone and putting
Hmm.
them back together how you want to.
That's their job. Yeah,
I know.
I think
So
in
terrible.
the further lore, the engineer is who makes all the Cenobites.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I kind of got that with in Hellraiser too.
yeah, yeah. The
Because when he
engineer is
goes into
weird.
that, like in the almost to like that it was like a coffin almost, or like an
Yeah,
elevator, or however you want to view it. To me, it looks like just a body
big
box,
box. Yeah,
Yeah, and then all the things that's going on inside. I feel like isn't that what the engineer does?
yeah. He's who makes the Cenobites. He
Yeah,
was
that's
pretty
cool.
cool. He's like one of in the book. He's more of like the one who's like in charge almost. Whereas in the movies, it's always Pinhead. He's the priest of
Mm-hmm.
hell. All right, we'll move on to the next one. It's two twenty
Yes.
fives.
Yeah, imagery. So
We already talked about
this
that.
one scores a 25 too, and because I said I can visualize the house. I know what the characters look like.
Even the bushes
Um,
outside when she talks about setting them, like you kind of
right?
got an idea what they look like.
And talking about how cold she is and how she can't feel her feet 'cause she's been outside so long. I'm like, Kirsty, you were a stalker.
Yeah,
And like in the damp room when like Julia's got all those men in there and like the way like the first guy she was talking about like how when she brought him in and how he was like getting nervous and he was real sweaty and all I could think of was like this really awkward man that was real sweaty getting ready to have sex with this lady and I'm like it just it grossed me out. I'm like ugh, he's so nasty. I can't. So, like, the imagery was really good because and then, like, with the chains getting hooked into the skin, like, even after you don't have skin anymore, it's,
I
like,
know,
just
right?
in
And
your
your
tendons and
muscles.
muscles and stuff. It's so gross. So,
Yeah,
he did a good job.
he did
25.
for sure.
Yeah. All this is gonna be Matt going, "Yeah." So, anyway, style and conventions, obviously, he knows how to write.
Yeah,
Like, it's that dialogue is very impressive to me, being so short of a text. So, very smooth and skillful and coherent. It's all in there.
yeah. This one was his first books too. I think his first book was the Damnation Game, and Hellbound Heart was his second thing he had written. So I mean, it's pretty early on in
Yeah.
his career.
Well, he was like he does a really good job. I can't deny that. I just can't say that I could sit through it again. But it was really good. So, obviously, because I gave it 100, and that was in my notes, I was like, "Unfortunately, I have to give this 100 because it fits everything in my rubric the way, it's what I expect when I read anything, is, like, to have any of these things done well, and he did all of them well, so good
No, I
job,
want to
Clive
read. I
Barker.
want to read the follow up book now. I've never read the Scarlet Gospels. I should.
Yeah. Is it I looked at when you look up his website, it's got literally everything listed.
Yeah, I'm on his Wikipedia. It's just in order, but it came out in 2015, and it's more about Pinhead and like just the Hell Priest and stuff, and another character of his that he has in some of his stories. He's got some cool stuff, like some cool worlds that he's made. You know, I wish they were all like interweaved. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's pretty
Mm-hmm.
neat. There's a third one, but he didn't write that one. It's just the story credits to him. It's called Hellraiser: The Toll. But
It is a really cool depiction of what a hell would look like, or how it would be to die and go somewhere terrible.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it's like it's totally different than what you usually view, like we talked about in the last episode, or that last Hellraiser episode. I just To me, that is what hell would be like. Just whatever it is your folly, or something that truly bothers you the most is what you're going to be tortured with forever.
yeah.
That is a hell for sure. And boy, did Frank deserve every
Yes, he
last,
did.
and so does Julia. So
100%.
hateful,
Yep, she
hateful
sucks.
bitch. Can't stand her. And Kirsty should have been. And she's also kind of punished at the end, though, because she's burdened with that damn box at the end and all the stuff that happened that transpired. So she's kind of stuck.
Yeah,
And if that shit gets opened again,
they're coming
who's to
for you.
say, well, they're not going to come for you because they know your name now.
Little bell toll. That's it.
Yeah, ugh, gross. Anyways, but yes, 100%.
Yep, 100.
A
I
whole
agree.
A.
It's really good.
Sweet. So
Very good stuff. It's a good short story, easy read. Definitely check it out. If you
listen to it if you can.
if you like audiobooks, it was really cool. I will listen to almost any audiobook narrated by the author. I think that's really cool. I
Mm-hmm.
always have, always will probably. So definitely check that out if you have the chance. And yeah, guys, that's it for us this week, I think. Anything else
It
you want to
is.
add about the Hellbound Heart?
I don't, but I can tell everyone where to find us.
Let them know.
All right. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Horror in the Halls. You can also follow Jenny_Dreffels on Instagram. You can email us at horrorinthehalls@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you.
For sure, guys. We also have a TikTok that I
The
sometimes post.
TikToks?
We have a tick of talks, yeah. Because I get bored and do all the social media, so it's there too. Because I think it's fun to watch videos. But yeah, check that out, guys. And we have Patreon, so if you want to support us on Patreon, we would greatly appreciate that, especially with the summer months coming on, and we'll put a lot more effort into what we're doing and figure out what's coming up
Yes.
next. I'm kind of excited about our next month.
Oh, man, I am too.
Can't wait to announce that to everybody.
I know, me
This
too.
is all for Jenny, but I'm also excited, so it'll be fun. And yeah, guys, so that'll be the bell. I guess we're going to get out of here. We'll see you next time.
Bye.